I want to hear the actual like logistics and like get down to the nitty gritty of it. But what I've been noticing, and I don't know if y'all have, like, it is so focused on drag queens.
Yeah.
Like nowhere do they talk about drag kings, clowns, women dressed as men. I've seen it be so focused on like drag queens, men dressed as women, and I don't.
Yeah, and we should talk about why that is.
I would love to. I would love
real.
to. So SB 1438, that's the bill that we're talking about right now. It's funny because it's another vague language bill because I don't believe it actually explicitly says drag shows.
It does not.
Even though
it doesn't say the word drag at all.
No, it doesn't say the word drag at all.
But
it also doesn't say pride.
It doesn't.
And that has been a topic of conversation.
Take it away, Brandon.
Well, so SB 1438, the anti-drag law, is a law that sort of disguises itself as protecting children. Once again, that's the scam here.
Yeah.
Protecting children from sexually explicit shows or performances. It's called adult live performances.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the where we run into trouble is the vagueness behind what is an adult live performance. And there's all of these things that qualify as adult live performances that when put in their totality sound a lot like drag.
Right.
Doesn't say the word drag, doesn't say the word pride, but it makes it sound a lot like you might be talking about drag. And it's also important to put the law in context because the law came after months of the DeSantis regime targeting small businesses for hosting drag shows. Mm-hmm. It started right here in Miami at Our House, which hosts a fabulous Sunday brunch.
We love that.
And they had a secret agent from the Department of Business and Professional Regulation show up to Sunday brunch, snap pictures of the show that was going on. And the governor used those appointees who he put there to then target that small business and threaten to strip them of their liquor license. Now, you can't take Our House's liquor license. It would cease to exist.
Right.
After that, he did the same in Orlando. He then came back to like the Marriott or whatever in downtown Miami and actually took their liquor license away for hosting drag shows where children were in the audience. So that was the context of what was happening when they filed this law. Filed the bill, now it's a law. And throughout the entire debate process, the guy who filed it said, this is about drag.
Shows. Yep.
I'm talking about drag. I filed the bill because my hometown was hosting a drag queen story hour. I'm targeting drag. The bill doesn't say drag, but they say drag. It's very much the don't say gay approach.
Back to who makes the decisions for your children, right? As a parent, I remember one time Nicki Minaj or somebody were like, oh, like my mom, like I love you and my mom loves you. And like, why do you let your kid listen to you? And she's like, I'm not their parent. She's like, I'm not going to show my child my music until they're old enough to hear it because I don't make music for 10-year-olds.
Right.
But in the drag community, and Jem can tell you because I love the drag community. Yeah. I love the content that they create. I love the entertainment. I love all those things. And we've been to a variety of drag shows. And, you know, the inappropriateness, I have seen 10 times more inappropriate things at concerts. You know, like in literature, parades, online, festivals. In school, in parades, on TV, you know, like like we were talking about before, that you explained why specifically it's targeting drag, right? But how can they, what's it called? Enforce it.
Right.
If it's not actually in the writing.
So I will give you, well, first of all, the enforcement mechanism, once again, is insidious because it doesn't necessarily target the performer. It targets the businesses, it targets the establishment, local governments who, you know, permit a parade that might have something show up in it, right? And the goal is that they never have to enforce it because we enforce it on ourselves.
Right, out of fear.
That's the intent, is self-censorship. It's the same thing they tried to do with Don't Say Gay that led to all the books being banned, all the rainbow stickers coming down. The state never wanted to actually enforce it. They wanted school districts to just rip those things away.
Be like, we're going to lose the budget. We're going to lose our liquor license.
So we got to just
do it ourselves.
Tone it down. And the same thing is true with the anti-drag law. And so you've seen it. You've seen, you know, local governments in smaller parts of the state go to pride organizations and say, we're not permitting you anymore this year because we're afraid that if a drag queen shows up, someone could get angry and they'll punish the city.
You know what, though? To the positive thing that you've said, I've also seen Lizzo bringing out
Right.
13 people in the state where,
That's right.
to be like, look, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to tell me I can't do this. I'm going to do it harder.
That's
and
right.
it's beautiful. And
That's
there's
right.
nothing wrong with it or nothing inappropriate.
Yeah. Drag is not a crime.
No, it's not.
It's an art form. It's expression.
Unless you put your wig on wrong.
And then
it's a crime.
That's criminal. And we're going to have a conversation about that.
Yes, exactly. So to get into sort of like the specifics of the bill, what exactly does it say?
So there's a lot in there, and I would encourage people, you should probably read it because there are a lot of stipulations to what an adult live performance actually is. But it basically talks about like, exposure of prosthetic body parts. It talks about, like simulated acts. It talks about a whole bunch of things that, again, on their surface seem like, okay, that seems reasonable.
Right.
Never mind the fact that we already had laws preventing young people from going to shows that were lewd or inappropriate.
Right.
They just add this component of vagueness around it's difficult to know exactly what adult live performance really means. And so because the sponsor said drag so many times, because it's in this context of anti-drag sentiment, it is meant to sound like drag. That is the, when you read all of those things that make up
like
an
what
adult
other
live
performance would have prosthetic, like pieces.
Right.
It becomes a little bit difficult.
Yeah, it is very specifically designed to sound like drag performers.
And I don't know if the people who are listening to this know this. I assume they might already, but if they don't, there are so many different kinds of drag performances.
Totally. Yes.
Just like there are so many different kinds of performances in general.
That's right. And I think for me, again, it's all of these bills feel like a lot and they're individual fires, but at the end of the day, it's about freedom.
Yeah.
And it is about the freedom for parents to make decisions about what content is appropriate for their family to enjoy.
Right.
The same way, you could see far more inappropriate content going to an R-rated movie.
Oh my gosh, on TikTok.
I'm sorry, guys, at the Grammys. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But parents are given the right to take their child to an R-rated movie
if they want to.
Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, we believe as a society that the onus lies with parents and families, not on the government deciding what content people should consume.
What floors me is that I think that 90% of the things that quote unquote are acceptable to children are inappropriate for them. I see it online. I see little kids twerking. I see little kids wearing crop tops and little shorts. And I'm sorry, it's called but it's called pop culture, popular culture for a reason. But now, granted, humans have always been sexual and women are now finally, we're able to be more, come into our own sexuality in ourselves instead of men telling us that they want us to be an object. We can, display ourselves how we want to, but I'm not going to lie and act like most of the stuff that is flowing through pop culture is for the most part inappropriate.
That's the hypocrisy.
So the hypocrisy is like you said, most drag shows are hilarious. You're not going to see nudity.
They're wearing more clothes than we are.
I'm sorry. I went down this rabbit hole. Apparently Lady Gaga at South by Southwest brought this young girl. I think she was 17 or 8. Like she was of age, but she was obviously looked young, and she's a performance artist that throws up as her art form.
Oh, okay.
So Lady Gaga's like singing and this girl's puking on her boobs.
It's very
literally
odd.
It's pretty odd, huh? And I'm like, okay, and you're worried about Trixie Mattel reading, playing her ukulele, whatever.
Always reading everyone.
I don't want
and it doesn't make any sense to me because is it that it's somebody that was assigned male at birth wearing a garment that was originally intended for a female? I don't understand.
I think they're going after drag as
right.
more for the cultural implications of what people think. Oh, you're going to a gay club, you're doing this, and you're doing.
I don't think that's.
And at the end of the day, it is about forced conformity, right? Remember, this is a small faction of people who have puritanical beliefs and believe that there's only one way to be. You're born male and female, and you don't ever get to have a say about what those things look like. Boys like blue and they don't cry.
Right.
Girls wear dresses and they like pink. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that the world has offered you, and you don't get to choose a different path than that. LGBTQ people live outside of the confines of that structure, and that makes them deeply afraid.
Launching.